Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. Today we have someone on the show that's only been creating content around the skilled trades for about 4 months now, but you probably know who he is. He burst onto the scene and I see his content all over LinkedIn. Andrew Brown of ToolFetch joins us on the show today to talk a little shop about the importance of the skilled trades. Andrew starts us off with a bang, telling us the story of how he worked alongside the tradespeople on ground zero after 9/11. In fact, it's the whole reason he began to serve the trades in the first place. We talk about business, how rewarding this career path can be, and what we can do to paint the trades in a better light. So don't go anywhere. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and on our website at blueisthenewwhite.com to receive all the latest updates. You can now find this podcast on iHeartRadio, SiriusXM, and Pandora. As always, we rely on word of mouth from our listeners to further the mission. So if you enjoy this episode, please take a second to rate it, review it on whatever platform you're listening, and share it with your friends. The future generations of tradespeople depend on it. They depend on you. So thank you again and enjoy this episode of The Blue is the New White podcast with Andrew Brown. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. I'm super excited to talk to our guest today. You might have seen him all over LinkedIn and whatever other platforms he is infiltrating at the time, but his name is Andrew Brown, and I am very curious because he just kind of thrust onto the scene as far as from a skilled trade standpoint. So, Andrew, welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Josh. Appreciate it, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for my reference and the listeners' reference, do you prefer Andrew or Andy or A, or got a nickname?
Oh, no nicknames. Andrew.
Perfect. Andrew it is, my friend. All right, cool. So for those who don't know who you are and who maybe haven't seen your stuff, why don't you go ahead and just kind of give us an idea of who you are, where you came from, kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so the inspiration behind the skilled trades, as you mentioned about being on LinkedIn and putting out information about the skilled trades, started on September 11th, 2001. And I was 23 at the time, and the planes had just hit the buildings, and I'm living in New York City at the time. And a couple of days after September 11th, I found myself on ground zero. So I was on ground zero helping tradespeople and emergency workers find survivors. And what struck me throughout that day was looking at the tradespeople on site. They were there with no PPE on, no protection. They had their gas saws, they had their hand tools, trying to find survivors. And I was helping them side by side along with emergency workers. And I came at it, you talk about life-changing events. It was a life-changing event for me once I left that scene. And I was in IT at the time. I quit my job. I was on Wall Street. I quit my job. And for weeks, even a month, 2 months, I racked my brain of how can I give back to the tradespeople that had given so much on 9/11. And that's where I co-founded an online tool and equipment business named ToolFetch with my brother about 20 years ago. We still love the business, still working hard today. We sell tools to the skilled trades around the world, professionals such as welders, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, and other blue-collar trades. These are the men and women who are building and repairing our infrastructure, bridges, tunnels, roads, and we reach them by offering one of the largest tool and equipment catalogs on the internet, offering over 1 million different products from 600 different vendors. Products such as lifts, cement mixers, drain cleaners, harnesses, products like that. That is my way to give back to the skilled trades that have given so much, especially when I saw them that day.
Whoa, dude, that is heavy, and I had no idea. I mean, how could I?
It's a lot. It's a lot. I try to compact it, but Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a couple of questions here. I mean, you said you were working side by side, right, with these tradesmen at Ground Zero. I mean, how did that come about? Were you just a bystander? I mean, was it something that like you rushed over, or were you called to action? What did that look like?
Yeah. So great question. So when I was living in the city and this happened, I called my friend up after this happened because we were all in shock living in the city. And I had a friend who was in one of the trade buildings, and luckily he got out. And I said, look, I said, we got to do something. We can't just sit here. We have to do something. And he was in Rhode Island at the time. I'm like, dude, you got to come into the city. He's like, okay. So he gets into the city. And I said, we got to go down there. He comes with overalls, a hard hat. He's in this massive blue truck with a huge American flag on the back. And we race down the West Side Highway. And I'll go into the story a little bit to give you more detail. We stopped at a light. There's people cheering us on, like, because they thought we were tradespeople that were helping down there. They're throwing water at us, and they're throwing a toothbrush at us and food. And we make it all the way down to all the checkpoints. And then we park the car. And then we're literally on Ground Zero. And that's where that day I helped emergency workers and tradespeople.
Wow.
So we it was one of those things like we got to go. And I can't even tell you, somehow we got through those checkpoints and we were on Ground Zero. There's a couple of images that are just like, and I have a couple of videos on it. They're coming out. Just like, wow. Like, I even thinking, I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking back to it.
Wow, that's amazing. And you said you were in IT at the time, and this is kind of the event that started to get you looking toward the skilled trades. Let me ask you, before this happened, right? You said you were about 23. All right, so kind of probably fresh out of school, right? Still young. And did you know about the trades in high school or college? I mean, what did that look like? Was this something that had always been in the back of your mind, and this kind of pushed you over the edge, or is this all new to you at this point?
Well, I have family lineage who have been in industrial distribution. So this goes back to like my great grandfather who was in steel, and my father who sold products and services to ironworkers. So it was sort of like it was there, and I was exposed to it. This is what literally changed everything.
Got it.
This is what I need to do.
Got it. All right, cool. So I'm curious. It sounds like you took a more traditional path, right? Maybe through high school. Did you go to college?
Yeah, so I did go to college, and I went to the University of Rhode Island, and it was one of those things like, and I preach this all the time. It's like, well, it was spoken in my household of, you should go to college. I'm like, okay, I'll go to college, and it was one of those things like, I was roaming around for 4 years, and I started off as a programmer. I was a programmer doing C++ and advanced calculus. And I remember, Josh, sitting in the lab on like a Saturday at 2 p.m., looking around, like struggling with this program. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? Like, this is not for me.
Okay.
And then I changed over to a business administration, MIS, management information systems, and then I minored in finance. And then I came out of school, and then I went into IT. So I preach this all the time. Like, you go to school for 4 years, you spend, a lot of money, $100,000, depending on where you go. And you come out, you're like, lost as ever. I was one of those people.
Yeah, man, it sounds like it. I talked to a lot of people who they went through that traditional path, and listen, and I don't know how much of my stuff that you've seen, but one of the things that I preach on this podcast and in the book is, I'm all about the right education for the right individual, right? And if that means a college education for you, then that's great, right? But one of the things that we seem to overlook is that we're asking kids to and they are kids, right, to pick their profession at 18 years old, what they're going to do the rest of their life. It's no wonder, when they don't end up doing the thing that they picked, right, and they went to college for, they find a different career. I mean, this isn't really rocket science, but unfortunately, this is the narrative that the education system seems to push more often than not. So the objective, right, with this podcast, what I'm doing with the book, what you're doing, is to really open people's eyes to the opportunities that exist. And a good way to do that, Andrew, is to shed some light on the areas of the skilled trades that people may not think about, right? Because they think about a plumber and what do they think? I mean, they think about a mechanic and what do they think? I mean, these perceptions aren't hard to, to think about because it's what everybody's taught. However, when you're sitting here talking about how, these tradespeople were basically first responders, at the ground zero of 9/11, I mean, that paints a wildly different picture that we were never taught, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was just to them, and just watching them on site is like, and you fast forward, 15, 20 years, you hear that they have all these health problems helping out down there. And I saw it firsthand, like they weren't fully protected, but all they first thought about was finding survivors. And it was just this like electrifying, like, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing what they're doing. And it was just inspirational for me.
Absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about what that journey looked like, right? Once you made that switch in your head and you said, okay, well, we got to do something to give back to, the skilled trades, and you found an opportunity, it sounds like, as an entrepreneur, right? And starting this business with your brother. So can you talk to me a little bit about that journey and maybe some trials and tribulations surrounding it?
Oh yeah, I got a lot. How long is this podcast?
Yeah, I'm sure you do, man.
I'm kidding. Now, yeah, we started not that long after. So when we started in typical entrepreneur bootstrap, used our own money to start the business. We were in a 500 square foot apartment together, elbow to elbow, with 2 screens. And nobody really knew. I mean, this goes back 22 years ago. So think about what the internet was back then. Not many people were buying online at that point, and that was our business, was online. You're going to sell a cement mixer online? I don't understand the whole thing. Who's going to buy that? And we laugh today, looking back, back then when people really didn't understand the internet and e-commerce. But that's kind of where we started, in my brother's apartment. And then we moved to my apartment, which actually was a 1-bedroom. So we were able to separate. And we started our first office. Then we started hiring employees. And we moved about 4 or 5 times throughout that journey. And then recently, about 8 months ago, we decided to go remote 100%. So we have people working for us around the country, but everybody's remote. We have a main hub and location where we store a lot of our products, and we drop ship a lot of our other products to the end user. A lot of our business is B2B, so business to business. We're dealing with small, medium, large organizations, government, hospitals, that type of stuff. Yeah, but it's been an evolution. And we literally built the first website. And this goes back, we're like the 6th generation iteration of the site. And we built the first site. We put it all together. We hosted everything, just like, it was an unknown back then. And I said this in my own videos, like, I didn't even do well the first year. It was scary. It was like, I'm on this journey of like helping the skilled trades, and I'm not doing well here. But with me, I just keep sticking with it. It just evolved over time, and here we are 22 years later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that last part about keep sticking with it, right? Because, I'm a big proponent that everyone wants to know the secret to success, right? And I have it. It's called consistency. And really, I mean, at the end of the day, listen, I've built this company from scratch as well, and bootstrapped the whole thing. And consistency is really what rules all. If you trip, if you stumble, if you fall, you keep moving forward. And it's funny because the trade actually taught me that. Right? Listen, you go into a job and you've got a job to do, right? No matter how big or no matter how small, it doesn't matter what gets in your way. You're not going to walk off that job. You're not going to say, well, no, it's not going to work. Sorry. And then wash your hands and go home. You've got a job to do and you've got to execute. And so I like to hear stories like that because I relate back to some of the transferable skills that some people may learn in the skilled trades. I like to call them the fundamentals of success, right? And so, you've got the consistency, you've got tenacity, you've got perseverance, you've got mental toughness, you've got work ethic, all of which are necessary in almost any trade that you can physically perform, And so, a lot of times people want to start businesses, right? They want to be entrepreneurs and they don't know how or where to start. They have this idea in their mind of what modern media paints for them, and they disregard the trades, either serving them like what you do, or actually working in them to learn them and build up from there as viable businesses. It just doesn't. The thought process doesn't go through their head, right? So I'm curious, what would you say to an aspiring entrepreneur about the possibility of working in, on, or around a trade?
I think it's right now, in the next handful of years where things are going, you have the opportunity to do extremely well. And the reason why I say this is because if there's over 40% of men and women retiring in the next 5 or 10 years, it just opens up so many opportunities to get into a trade. And I'll give you an example here. I recently had an issue with my dryer in my laundry machine. And there's a guy that everyone kind of uses. He's the guy. And he came down. He's about 65, 66. And we got to talking. And I was like, yeah, I do a lot of content on the trades. And he's like, nobody wants to take over my role. He's like, I have no debt. I make good money. I don't work that hard. I don't work that many hours. And nobody wants to get their hands dirty. Nobody wants to get on their knees. And I'm scratching my head like, there's an amazing opportunity here. And that's what's kind of available out there because people are starting to go into other areas. They're going into AI and IT and other tech and you have the trades gap that will only get wider, and you have a tremendous opportunity to get into those trades where a lot of these people, men and women, are really leaving. And I always say this, like the $100 per hour for a plumber or for a welder, it's possible to get there over the next handful of years because of this gap and the amount of people that are leaving. So I think the opportunity is wide open if you want to do it.
Yeah, no, right. That's the caveat, right? If you're willing to roll up your sleeves and get to work, which I know is a lot of what you preach on LinkedIn, with some of your videos, which are incredibly entertaining, by the way. And I've got to ask, right? I've been in this space now for quite a while, in these skilled trade circles, and I've just recently come across your content. Is this something, like I know you've been in the business for a long time, but is this style of marketing something new that you just launched maybe last year, or has this been like a slow rollout and it's finally starting to hit? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been, and every day, all day, I'm always talking to professionals all over the country, and I've heard their stories about wages, about the skills gap. So I've always known, and I've always kind of given back to the trades, different organizations and stuff like that. What I never did was I never was outspoken about it. And that was a little, I've done video before for our business, more infomercials and stuff like that, but I never did this. And it was always inside of me, but I never could do it because I was always a little shy. I was more of a listener than a communicator.
You wouldn't know that by your videos, man.
Yeah, no, I was like petrified, and it's the same thing everybody goes through. Like, oh my God, they're going to look at me. And I would say the journey of putting content out started in September. So very new. And it was one of those things where I just want to start putting out content. Let's kind of see what happens. Let's see if it resonates. And then within, I think the second or third video, I did a welding video. and it blew up. It was one of those viral videos that you never thought, like, wow, you always see somebody else like get this viral, and I'm like, oh my God, like really? And look, I got over the vanity metrics of it and whatever. I think I was more inspired that there's so many people in the trades that are on LinkedIn that are so vocal about it. And I didn't really know that until this video kind of hit. And then I just started doing obviously other content surrounding the trades and supporting the trades. But for me, it's not even a marketing sense. It's more of like just a mission.
Yeah.
And I've really been on this mission since 9/11. It's really what it's been. I just haven't been vocal about it. Now I'm vocal about it. So
yeah, no, that's powerful. I mean, we live in such a great day and age, right? We talk about the skills gap, we talk about the opportunities, we talk about all of this stuff surrounding the skilled trades that should get people jumping up and down, right? And we're finally in an era where we can literally show it. You go on Instagram and you see a ton of tradespeople on Instagram sharing their videos and their pictures of what they're actually doing every day. You've got people like me with the podcast, sharing stories from tradespeople all over the world. And you got people like you, strictly like from an information and entertainment standpoint to get people's attention and grasp it and get them to say, wait, I didn't know that. Because that's really like when I watch your videos, that's the impression that I get is that, you've got that hook factor, right? That gets people to stop and say, hold on, what did he just say? is that can't be right. But it is, and it's powerful. Yeah.
That it's interesting, that initial hook, because you have that like split second when someone's scrolling in the feed, they're like, wait, what's that?
Yeah.
And it's really hard because you could have the best message in the world, but if you can't get the person engaged in your content, forget it.
That's it. That's it. So
work.
I'm interested in, you said you're always talking to professionals, right? And you've been talking to professionals for a long time. So I'm curious a little bit about that. Like, have you found any commonalities from the people that you've talked to in the skilled trades? Like, are there any characteristics that they all share?
They're just nice people. No, really, they're and I think there's this like depiction about like, because it's so people think it's dirty and it's like, ugh, they're really nice, smart people, and that's sort of common across, and they're willing to help, and they just want to be heard and respected, and I feel like that gets lost there.
Yeah,
and I feel like through my videos and messaging, I'm trying to give them a voice that just they don't have, and I just overall they're just good people.
Yeah, they are. They are, and I wish more people understood that, because there is a perception, right, that hey, it's kind of an old school industry, so you picture an old school type of mentality or type of person, right, and calloused hands and all of that. And I mean, abrasive language. And listen, some people in the trades, here's the thing, right? I've been in this specific trade for a long time. I do commercial HVAC, refrigeration, and kitchen equipment, right? And so, listen, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. There's some rough and tumble people, in the industry. But the thing is, to your point, they can be that way and still care, right? They can be that way and still have a heart of gold. And that's what I've noticed, right? Is even if they come off as abrasive, they're not being mean, right? They're looking at you, and they're looking at apprentices and people, that may not know a whole lot about the industry or their type of work, and even if, they're incredibly candid, there's always an intent behind it. It's to teach or uplift or, push somebody to be better. That's the intent, and that's what people need to see. And I think that, I mean, for lack of a better term, maybe people are having a hard time seeing through that in this day and age. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's just an observation that I had, but I just thought it would be interesting to ask you since, since I'm sure you talk to just people all over the country about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it's important. You brought up, you mentioned something with training and mentorship and passing the torch. That's so important to pass that down to the younger guys, the newbies on site. It's like this lost art. It's like all of a sudden they retire, they don't pass it down. All those trade secrets are lost. And so I stress it too in some videos, like mentorship is so important. Getting in good with somebody who's been in the trade for a long time. You hook up with someone like that can really cut a good amount of time of just kind of floundering around, that they kind of put you on this course of success. And I'm hopeful that more and more men and women who are retiring are doing that to kind of give back to the new people, because they were new once at one time too. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm curious, what's your perception on what else can we do? You know, I mean, I know what you're doing, right? Putting out content out there. What about, say, you know, the people in the industry, right, that are tradespeople, or even other companies that may serve the trades? How can we bring more attention to these industries?
well, besides the marketing and the messaging, obviously, also stuff like going to uh, so like for instance, when kids are looking to see what they want to do, right? So the colleges are there where they go to these fairs. Are there construction companies there? Maybe. But I feel like a lot of times that an individual, a young person is in those fairs, they kind of like bypass the construction company. Like, I don't want to do that.
Hmm.
You know, that's dirty. I don't want to work my hands, that type of stuff. I think more of a push to get into the schools would be extremely, extremely important. I think working with teachers, guidance counselors, and that's really what this comes down to. You want younger kids who are in middle school or high school, if they're being pushed and saying, I mean, you got to go to college. Well, if your parents are saying that, the guidance counselor saying that, and your teacher's saying that, what are you going to do? Most likely, you're going to follow that path. But if if those individuals would have the right information about the trades, what's possible in the trades, that you can make six figures, you can work your way up the ladder. I just don't think most kids know. I just don't think it's ever really pushed unless somebody knows somebody who is a plumber, or their parents are in the trades of some sort. But if you have this mechanical ability, maybe that gets found in a shop class. Where are all the shop classes in school? I didn't take a shop class. Where are those classes? And that person who has the mechanical ability takes a shop class and all of a sudden says, wow, I'm really good with my hands. Then it can get developed from there. You also need that push into schools as well, on top of these construction companies showing up at fairs and displaying exactly what the benefits are of being in the trades. Of, look, you're not stuck in a cubicle. You're not in your four walls. You could be fresh air. You're in different places. You know, I don't like to be stuck inside, but I am. But if I was out there in yeah. So it's hard because some of the elements. Obviously, it's cold right now, but man, it's exciting.
No, it definitely is, and I like that. You know, I like that a lot. I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, and you know, I think too, from a marketing aspect, kind of some of the stuff we just talked about, right? The people that people don't really know much of. I keep gravitating back, right, to that 9/11, you know, thing. That's so powerful. But you know, when people think about that, they think about the firefighters, they think about the policemen, you know, they think about the paramedics, they think about the people, obviously, that that died and all of that. And I know that there's been narratives revolving around the trades that helped clean up, you know, and that helped, you know, with discovery and all of that, but not as often, or you don't hear that as often as you probably should, right? Because 9/11 is not the only thing. I mean, you're talking hurricanes, right, down in the southeast. You're talking earthquakes in the west, right? You're talking about any natural disaster, really. I mean, when you think about it, you do have your true first responders, your paramedics, your police officers, your firefighters, right? But right behind them, and often right next to them, you've got your glazers, you've got your linemen, you've got your masons, you've got your skilled trades, ready to jump in the fire and help with this kind of stuff. People don't know that narrative. They just don't know. They've never been taught, to your point, right? And so I think that would be good to push, maybe a couple of good ideas for some of the content that you can put out as well, in some of your stuff, because this is reality. It's being a plumber doesn't mean fixing 1,000 toilets and then retiring. Being a plumber can mean a whole hell of a lot more than that. You know what I'm saying?
There's something about that satisfaction, and I'll answer this in a few different ways. There's something about this satisfaction of building something. And I've spoken to a bunch of tradespeople, like going over a bridge and saying, I helped, I did that. I did that building. Did you know that? Like, that's pretty freaking cool. I can't say that, but they can say that.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting concept. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought.
No, that's right. But I know where you were going with that. I mean, it's the sense of satisfaction of being to sit back and say, hey, this accomplishment belongs to me. I helped with this. I mean, listen, I was in the field for a long time, before I moved into the office, and my wife will be the first one to tell you, every single time we drove by a restaurant that I fixed a single piece of equipment in, she knew about it. She absolutely, you know what I mean? I drove by, hey, see that place? Their kitchen's really dirty. Don't eat there. But I fixed their fryer.
Yeah.
But that's it. And there's a pride point there, and that feeling, I think, is what we need to try to broadcast, right? Because you can't really say the same in a lot of the white collar data entry type jobs, because as soon as you do something, it flies away and it's done, and you can't step back and really show people, and you can't pass by it a million times on your way to and from work. It's a different feeling. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because, I feel the same exact way.
You brought up linemen.
Mm-hmm.
My thought came back to me.
Yeah.
And I remember this picture of all linemen with their trucks coming from different states to help. And I think it was maybe Florida, one of the hurricanes. They are the first responders. They are the ones to go out in storm or just the aftermath of the storm. I mean, you're saving, you're getting the power back up. Mm-hmm. Think about it. And I remember seeing this image of all these trucks, and it was just inspiring, because you're right. They are, right after the emergency workers, they are the ones that are putting themselves out there to get the power back on. I just find that amazing and inspirational. Yeah,
it really is. And it's a narrative that people need to know. So I'm curious, Andrew, I know that we're rounding the corner here, but what's next for you? I mean, you've been doing this content stuff since September 2022, right? So you're still kind of in the infancy stages of it. With the with your business and everything else. What's next?
Uh-oh.
Did I lose you?
Yeah, I don't know if that was me or.
Oh, no worries.
Froze. I don't know. Yeah,
I got you back here. Let me start that question over. So I want to know what's next for you, right? I mean, you just started your content stuff in September, so you're still in infancy with that. Obviously you've been running your business for quite some time, but what's the next chapter for Andrew Brown?
Next chapter, podcast. Lost Art of the Skilled Trades, kind of working on that behind the scenes and speaking to some interesting individuals in the trades. Double the amount of content, if that's
nice.
Possible. Double the amount of content on all platforms. So TikTok, obviously LinkedIn, YouTube, and other platforms as well. Working with trade schools directly. So a lot of trade schools have reached out to me to work with them directly, getting the messaging out. And just keep amplifying the message and meeting people like yourself and others who are for the skilled trades and banding together, whether we work together one way or the other. There's a live event of some sort that I'm looking to put together, and just keep amplifying the message. That's really what it is, and just putting the message out there. That's really what the next step is. It's just more content about it.
I like that. That's exactly what we need, man. That's exactly what we need. So we're going to move to close here, but I do want to ask you one question that I like to ask all my guests. So one of the things, right, that I preach is, whatever you decide to do around the skilled trades. Well, no, let me start over. So we often, as a society, right, and as educators, counselors, teachers, parents, we tend to push people towards one definition of success, right? We try to put everybody in the same little box of, you got to go to school, you got to get good grades, you got to graduate, you got to get a good job. This is success. This is what it looks like. When the reality is far different. The reality is that everybody defines success differently. For one person, that could be broke playing video games all day. For another person, it could be, a 200-foot yacht, sailing across the ocean. But there's such a wider array of what success looks like. And I am passionate about being either in the skilled trades or working around the skilled trades. Serving the skilled trades presents such an opportunity to live your own definition of success. So I'm curious from you, Andrew, what is your overall definition of success, and how have the skilled trades given you an opportunity to pursue that?
Well, it's interesting, and I have redefined what success means to me. Like you said there, everyone's got their own way of looking at it. Mm-hmm. And I used to look at it that I'm chasing this ideal. So this thing, whatever it is, this crazy goal that I want to kind of get to. And that was always my way to look, did I accomplish that goal or did I not accomplish that goal? The problem is that there are times that you never accomplish that goal, and people think they're unsuccessful because they didn't hit a certain revenue mark or they didn't make their mark somewhere. What I've done is now I've gone backwards to look to see how far I've come and what I've accomplished up to this point. So when I start looking back 90 days, 180 days, am I a better person than I was 90 days ago or a few months ago? I wasn't doing content in August. I started doing content in September. Now, I might not be to my goal where I want to be with the skilled trades and messaging, but shit, if I start to look backwards and say, wow, I accomplished a lot. A lot of people beat themselves up and say, I'm not successful, but really you are. And that's the little wins is success to me. So I define my own success. I don't compare myself to someone else, how many followers they have, how much money they have. I'm playing my own game. And I'm getting off that treadmill of this constant battling against somebody. And it's just the wrong way of looking at it. And you know what? I have a much better positive state of mind because of it. And it's just changed my perception on what success is all about. And again, continuing the message for me in the skilled trades of hitting more people. If I could hit that one person that says, you know what, I've seen your content. I didn't have any interest in the skilled trades, and now I'm interested and I want to sign up for a trade school. That's a win for me. I only need is one person.
Yeah. No, that's a great definition of success, and great advice too for anyone out there listening, that may be wondering, because if you're like anybody else, right, your definition of success changes. And I don't know about you, Andrew, but this is what it was like for me, right? Through the periods that my definition of success changed, I was a little bit lost, right? Because once you don't chase that ideal anymore, once you don't chase that goal anymore, there's often a period there where you're like, well, what am I actually doing? What does success actually look like? Until you actually land then on kind of what you said, like, you don't compare, to anyone, and you're playing your own game, and that's your definition of success, and that's how you feel fulfilled. So great advice to everybody out there is just listen, be honest with yourself, keep going, and if you can use the skilled trades as a pedestal in any way, shape, or form, a catalyst for this success, please you know, the skilled trades needs you. You know what I'm saying?
Well said. Well
So,
said.
That being said, man, where can people find you?
So I am extremely active on LinkedIn. It's under my name, Andrew Brown. DM me. I want to hear from you. If you're in the skilled trades, want to talk about the skilled trades, want to talk about shop, want to talk about tools, just reach out to me. YouTube under my name, no, under Toolfetch. That's my company, toolfetch.com, TOOLFETCH.com. Or just give me a call.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks, Andrew. I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you carving some time out for me and my audience today. I'm sure they're going to glean a ton of value from it. Just keep doing what you're doing, man, out there. It's getting attention, and we just need to keep pressing that message.
Thanks, Josh.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Take care, bud.